Hello there and welcome to Laurence Plays Factorio Planetary Pioneers, the mod set with 5 players, over 20 planets and over 30 science packs. Last time I talked about where all our resources were coming from and how the mines were doing. The next thing to look at, I think, is going to be the main bus. And this was mostly, well, Tristan was sort of in charge of organising the main bus, getting it started, getting things ticking over and running nicely. And he's also been sweeping through and doing upgrades here and there. So, for example, he's upgraded most of the belts, if not all of the belts in here, to yellow belts. Now we've got a decent supply of them. And that's helped a lot because, you know, twice as fast. And he's been doing that in some of the production areas as well because it was very much needed. And he's also been going through and upgrading things to electric inserters when they're available and just basically trying to remove wood burning stuff from here as much as reasonably possible. Now we can't do that with the lumber mills. They are always going to be burner buildings. But because they're quite quick and they give us that juicy plus 50% productivity bonus you can see over there on the right, they're very worth hanging on to. And this has a crafting speed of 2 and a productivity bonus of 50%. So functionally, it has a crafting speed of 3 based on how quickly it can produce things, whereas these have a crafting speed of 0.5. Okay, those are the old. We're just about starting to make blue assembly machines, which are 0.75. So these are still twice as fast as the best electric assembly machines we can make. However, they only work for a limited subset of the recipe. So if we come in here and just break that one for a second, you can see through here they will build essentially wooden things, so we can make burner mining drills out of them actually, which is interesting because although they are largely made of wood from what goes in there, we can make burner towers, we can make lumber mills, burner labs, we can make all of the belts, we can make the wooden circuit boards, and we can make wooden ammunition walls. So basically, much like the EM plants on Fulgora and the foundries on Vulcanus, the specialised building from Lignumis can also make the specialised stuff for Lignumis, which feels a bit weird. I mean, using a lumber mill to make lumber makes perfect sense to me, but using it to make belts or drills seems a bit weird to me, but yeah, no, that's how games work. So yeah, we worked along. Tristan started off by making the lumber here, and then the wooden circuit boards, and also the belt setup over here. So we've got the lumber mills making the wooden ones again, for the 50% productivity bonus, which is rather nice. And then we've got assembly machines over here making the actual iron ones, and then moving on to the yellow ones, perhaps I should call them. Then moving on to the red ones up here. So we're getting the up to the highest technology we've researched so far. Although we don't have enormous numbers of... well, actually, we've got a decent number of red stuff available now. Maybe it's time to start using it in some of the places where we need a bit more speed, like perhaps bringing the ores down from the mines. That said, a red belt is still more than twice the price of a yellow belt. You can see there, that takes 11 iron. Okay, it takes 1.5 wood as well. This one takes 2 iron and 3 wood, and that makes 2 transport belts as well. So these are much more expensive. They're 11 times the price of the yellow ones. So to be honest, for long runs like the one going down from the mines up here, you're probably better off from a cost point of view running lots and lots of yellow belts rather than running half as many red belts. At least for them at the moment, while we're still very short of iron. But then once you get inside the actual factory itself, it could be worth running faster ones down in some of the production areas, perhaps, just to get things running through there a bit quicker, and perhaps running through the middle of the mine as well, because I think this patch is big enough that if we put drills all the way up, we would more than fill a yellow belt that just runs down the middle. So that might be a candidate for putting in a red belt and then splitting it off at the bottom onto 2 yellow belts. We shall see what we feel like. Next up, I built up a system to make the inserters, and so that has to start off with making the wooden ones at the bottom here. Okay, I started off making those first because we couldn't make the electric ones, which is why I've bothered with the long wooden ones. But then it turns out you make a wooden one into a yellow one, and you make a yellow one into a red one, or a yellow one into a blue one, and then you can turn a blue one into a green one, or at least we will be able to once we research those, which we haven't done yet. And this is what we call a telescopic recipe, where you have to use the older tier of an item to make the higher up tiers of it. And that's been extended by putting in the wooden ones at the bottom, because I don't think you need burner inserters in vanilla to make yellow inserters, and you certainly don't need wooden belts to make yellow belts because there's no such thing as wooden belts. So there's a little bit of an extension going on there, but yeah, why not? The telescopic recipes are good fun. Then next up, Mark asked me to make a system for putting cogs on the bus, so that's what we've got here. We've got a belt full of cogs, and this isn't something I normally do because generally I reckon it's easier not to have the extra thing on the bus and just make the cogs on site. But putting cogs onto the belt can make sense, unlike electric cables, which don't, because it takes 2 iron plates to make 1 cog. So that means the cogs are effectively twice as dense. You can fit twice as much product on the belt there than if you were just bringing the iron along straight and then converting it on site. So it makes sense. as long as you can get enough iron into this stage. Now, we don't seem to be taking a great deal of gears off the belt, so at the moment it's absolutely fine. But in the future, if we did, I think we'd need to have probably 2 belts of iron coming in here that's just dedicated to this system, and then have that flowing off to wherever, and then more iron belts flowing along to keep everything else supplied. So it's an extra thing to worry about, but it can ease the congestion on the bus a little bit by meaning you need 1 fewer belt. Meanwhile, Mike did the red science here, and there must have been some sort of breakdown in communications because he's building the cogs on site for this. Now, personally, I quite like making my science builds as self-contained as possible, within reason. So I would still take in green circuits for a science build, for example, and maybe with this setup I would also take in cogs, but I wouldn't pull in inserters from the inserter factory to make the green science, for example. That I think would just tend to go badly because you tend to find you're interrupting one supply or the other. So you do a big factory upgrade and suddenly your science stops running, or because your science is running you don't have any inserters available for your factory upgrade. Either way, I find it's better to have those split off a little bit and a bit more separate. So I think in a way I sort of agree with this. This is fine. I think it's probably a sensible way to do things. Next up, we've got a little area that Saphir's got for making wooden ammunition, and yeah, he commented, did this become obsolete as soon as it was built? And yes, I'm afraid it probably did, because we didn't start using this to then make the rest of the ammunitions. Maybe we should have done. In fact, maybe we should be making yellow ammo and red ammo over here as well. But we're not. So yeah, maybe we'll move back here. Maybe we won't. We shall see. Then Tristan did green circuits. This is a very, very standard build, exactly how you'd expect it to look if you've played very much Factorio. And so yes, we've got a nice supply of green circuits coming out here, which is being split to go both ways along the bus because they're needed back over here for the advanced inserters and the splitters over here. So yeah, that's working very nicely as you'd expect it to. Saphir, I believe, was responsible for most of this area, so we've got assembly machines, tier 1 and tier 2. Handily, these seem to be a bit less telescopic than the inserters were, so we haven't needed to make the burner ones at the bottom to feed in to make the tier 1s to make the tier 2s. Be thankful for small mercies, I guess. And there's a little bit of a space up here that might be able to make the tier 3s at some point. We'll see if it can be squeezed in. I'm not sure. But we are also making then the electric mining drills here, as I said, and now we seem to have 500 of them. That's a lot. That's going to allow us to build out the mines quite nicely in the beginning of the next stream. We're also building new nanobot capsules. Lovely. They're quite nice. They're a bit faster than the very, very slow bots we've got at the moment. Ah, yes, this is why we needed the glass for making the labs, because, well, you make a geodesic dome, you're going to need to put glass in all the windows around there, so apparently they require glass now. And also belts, wooden belts specifically, but that requires wooden gears, which requires lumber, so we can bring in wood and yada, yada, yada all the way through. Why we're not just bringing in lumber from here, I'm not quite sure. Maybe Saphir just didn't notice that it was available. But you know what? It's going to work. Let's not worry about it too much. Then we have a Mike construction area where he's making all the things we need for power. So we've got the power poles, pipes, boilers, steam engines, furnaces as well. Not technically power, but you know, it fits in here quite nicely. Then we've got landfill and underground pipes as well. So that's all pretty standard and working nicely. Then we get on to green science. This is another one of my builds, and this is again pretty standard, except I had to make the burner inserters here, which meant I need to bring wood in and then or lumber in to make the gears, to make and then make the wooden belts to make the iron belts, and then those can be fed up and we can make green science. Lovely. Again, it's pretty similar to a standard normal build, but we've got the extra wooden stages in here as well. This seems to be where we're making ammunition standard, so we're not using the lumber mills here, which means we're not getting the bonus to productivity on here, but you know, it's wood. Wood is cheap, so I don't think we really care about that. And then we can make the yellow ammunition, pump it around here, and it's disappearing off to go off to the base defences. Then we have a system building walls for similar reasons, and stockpiling a bit of it in a box here. And this one is then because Mike told me he built it and promised it was going to be good, I then was convinced to feed it into the science production over here, which, to be honest, I regretted a little bit because we did have some throughput issues. But that seems to be very much sorted now, and it all looks fine to me. It seems to be basically sorted. And yeah, we're making a decent amount of wall over here. We did have a problem with stone bricks at one point, but that's now clearly sorted. Also, turrets and radars being made over here as well, which is nice. And yet again, somebody's making gears on site, because I guess none of us are used to actually having gears on the bus, so we've just been making them because that's how you do gears. But yeah, over here we've got the military science. This is all very standard. I can't see any changes to the recipe. Oh, actually, no, technically I can. We have to make wooden ammo in order to make yellow ammo, but that's really quick and pretty cheap as well. So to be honest, I don't mind. It's just one extra assembly machine. It's just as fast as that one, so that's working really nicely. We then ran into a bit of a problem over here because we ran into a cliff, and unfortunately we haven't researched landfill yet, so that's a bit of a problem. So we were having debates about what we're going to do about it. Were we going to have to turn the bus southwards so it comes down here, and that's going to be a little bit awkward because I'd already built this system here which is pulling steel from basically the other side of the bus, so how are we going to do that? That was going to be quite annoying. What was the best way to sort this out? And then we discovered if you've got enough grenades in your inventory, the nanobots are actually capable of blowing up cliffs, which is a bit bizarre. It does rip through quite a lot of grenades. I've got 82 at the moment. Now I've got 68, so it's 14 grenades for each piece of cliff you blow up. But I think that's a small price to pay for getting rid of the cliffs. So we're definitely going to be doing a bit of clearing around here. I have to admit, I'm not sure how I feel about this, because on the one hand, cliffs are incredibly annoying and it's great to be able to get rid of them even in the early game. And it's relatively expensive in grenades, so it's not a trivial thing to do. But on the other hand, being able to trivialise... Oh, you see, I'm down to 12 grenades now and I can't blow up anymore. Being able to trivialise this part of the game like that doesn't fit quite right with me. On the other hand, cliff explosives are locked behind metallurgic science packs, which means Vulcanus, which is a very long way off. So in a way, I'm kind of glad we've got the ability. I am going to use it because it's part of the mods we're playing. But I am going to say I feel it might be a little overpowered and sort of changes the dynamic of the game a bit. And especially with us having researched landfill before we even left Lignumis, there's now basically nothing that can stand in our way, with the possible exception of biters. And now we've at least got yellow ammo and metal turrets. Even those probably won't be too much of a problem. And with 5 people, you can kind of cannon fodder rush them as well and do quite a lot of damage that way. And with long reach and fill for me and so on, we can just drop fully armed turrets right into the middle of biter bases. So with a lot of these mods, we have made things a bit easy, or possibly a bit too easy, and through a sort of, I guess it's the law of unintended consequences. So we've got long reach installed to make it a bit less frustrating when you're trying to do things around a factory and you're just that little bit too far away from whatever machine you're trying to poke. But then that means you can drop a turret into the middle of a biter nest. And we've got fill for me in there because it's quite useful to be able to put down burner machines and have them be pre-fueled, and put down a car and have everything loaded into it. But again, that makes it trivial to drop a turret into the middle of a biter nest. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how to feel about some of these things. It makes some of the bits and pieces a little bit too OP, I think. And then finally on the end of the bus, Tristan has started a system to build up some engines, and these are going to be useful for all kinds of things. We're going to want them to make electric motors for bots, for example. I think there's a science pack that requires them. We're definitely going to need them for trains, because trains are quite a high priority. Because as you've noticed, we've got quite a big area around here to transport stuff through, and doing it all by hand is a little bit of a faff. So getting trains and getting a bus set up properly and with separate smelting areas, and you know the way Factorio goes, getting all of that stuff up and running and just working better would be very, very nice indeed. And an interesting thing you can notice with the bus when you look a bit further back on it is this: we've got this slightly funny pattern here. So a normal bus, at least the way I build them, is the way we've got it over here, where you get these belts in blocks of 4 like this, and they're blocks of 4 because that's how far a yellow underground belt goes. So you can do things like that and build across your bus very, very quickly and easily, and you don't have to think about it too hard, and you can get the supplies across. So for example, when the cogs come out here, they can quickly be passed up over to here to go into all of the production systems at the top. Over here, quite a lot of these are still on 3 belt pieces, and that's because we started off building this bus with the wooden belts, and wooden underground belts can only go under 3 tiles. So we had a system we're doing like that, where we go under 3, then there'd be a gap, then it go under another 3, and there was method in the madness there, because although we had to fill the gap in the middle with a belt like that, it meant that when we knew that when we came along and upgraded it later, there'd be these spaces. This means when I come along to upgrade it, well, I can get rid of that one, I can put in an underground there and have it come up there, and get rid of those, have it go underground around there and come up there. And now that's created an extra space where we can put in another belt and then turn this bus into a normal 4-2-4-2-4-2 style bus to make it easier to upgrade later, and so we weren't sort of hamstrung by having the rather limited wooden belts at the beginning. And I think this was the right decision, and it's made things nice and easy to upgrade, and it's given us a bit of extra space for running in things like this extra belt of iron, although I think Tristan had already planned for that. But then there's room up here to put in another belt of something that would make sense to have with these things, and maybe if we had another stone product it could go in down here, and so on and so on. So it gives us that little bit of expandability in the middle of the bus as well. And I think that's enough for this video. Next time I'm going to take a look at some of the science we've managed and talk about how we all felt about the second stream, so please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that. We'll be back on Monday for another Planetary Pioneers Stream 2, and my Wednesday night streams of The Last Starship are still going strong. I hope to see you around for all of those. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.